Yeah, you got to follow that. And what do you know? Let me cue up the music as Luke will share the last story of the night.
So this continues my theme of the night with hotels. This one, though, I want to say right now, I think there's a reason why this worked out the way it did, but you'll catch it in the story. I've never really been sure how to describe myself, not socially, but my unusual perception of reality. We refer to it as sleep paralysis or lucid dreaming, out of body experiences, some people say astral projection. It's always been a part of my life. Sleep has always been more than simply rest for me. Ever since I was little, the quality of my sleep has been dictated by what happens before and during my sleep. I'm not talking about waking up to use the restroom and not be able to fall asleep or fall asleep in the first place. When my younger sister was 3, my parents decided to renovate our old house attic. It was a walk-up, unfinished space, and my dad and his brothers turned it into 2 additional bedrooms and a bathroom, although the one bedroom was extra small. I inherited that small room, and it has since been turned into a walk-in closet by my younger sister now that I've moved out. When I first began sleeping there, I started experiencing what most would call sleep paralysis and seeing what I would describe almost like holograms of people I know. I don't think holograms is the right way to describe it, but it's the most similar thing I can compare it to. Sometimes I wouldn't even have to see anything during my sleep paralysis to be terrified. My bed was in the corner, and I would always sleep facing the wall because I felt like that was most efficient in keeping me from experiencing night terrors. That didn't always work, and often I would wake up feeling a breathing down my neck. It would not be able to move a muscle, not that I wanted to. Occurrences like that were happening on a regular basis, and I would tell my parents, who would usually just shrug me off. Eventually, after constantly talking about this, my parents had me speak to a professional. I ended up getting tested negative for disorders such as schizophrenia and others. I am currently writing this from the laptop in my hotel room with my friend passed out behind me. Him being here is the only reason I haven't left and found a new hotel. I am in Naples, Florida on spring break and supposed to be having a great time. I was drinking some beers and I did a little bit of coke earlier in the evening, which has contributed to me being awake. But at the moment, this is a blessing. Yesterday was the first night here, and I immediately had my stomach getting a weird feeling when I laid in bed to fall asleep. I was so exhausted from the flight that I passed out quickly after laying down, and it wasn't until 3 a.m. that I woke up. I looked to my left and I saw a figure standing near the closet in our hotel room. I assumed it was my friend and thought nothing of it, but when I tried to roll over, I couldn't. I was stuck facing this figure. He was average height and had no defining features, only able to be discerned from the pitch black because of the faint light coming off of the AC. As I sat there frozen, the shadow moved closer, slowly revealing more of his body. Lanky, unnaturally skinny, bending down, actually, this whole time to avoid scraping his head against the ceiling. By the time his face came into view, I had already begun digging into my bedspread, only able to clench his fist. The face was featureless. No nose, eye, or facial hair. It almost resembled the monster from Pan's Labyrinth, minus the nose holes. I couldn't help but stare at it. It may have been one of the most disturbing things I have ever experienced while having sleep paralysis. But something would not let me look away at anything but the face. A figure stood above me, motionless, facing the wall behind me. I waited for it to reach out and touch me and put its face close to mine. It was there for what it felt like an hour, and I continued to fixate on his face. I swear I saw what looked like worms moving under the layer of skin. Eyes moving, trying to find sight, frantically dashing from left to right to no avail. After what felt like an eternity, but realistically it was probably more like 3 minutes, my phone started buzzing. A reminder that there was an AirTag traveling with me. Thank God, I forgot to take that out of my backpack. My eyes drifted away from the being standing above me, and when I turned to face them, I shot up heavily, breathing and ready to turn all the lights, and not fall asleep yet tonight. But I know that if I don't, I will be miserable all of tomorrow. I have no idea what to do now.
As he's laying there, he's writing this.
Yes, this is actually posted last night.
Oh, wow.
During spring break.
You ever had sleep paralysis, Lucas?
Yes.
It's terrifying.
Yeah. I remember waking up one time with sleep paralysis. I've had it several times. One time I woke up and I opened my eyes and there was a person's face right in front of me. I could not move. It was just everywhere. And I tried to look away. It was always there. Sleep paralysis is one of the craziest things ever. And no one knows what it is. No one knows why you have it. And it's all theories, and it's the craziest thing. I will say, though, he did mention he did coke, but that was this night. He didn't necessarily say he did it the night before, but I would willing to bet that maybe he did a little something. And that might contribute to his sleep paralysis as an adult, but not so much as a kid. That would have been different.
Someone say we need to message him and follow up.
I actually should. I will probably reach out to him tonight and find out what he said happened. And
if not, let me know and I will for sure.
Yeah, I'll send him a message after this is over, and maybe it will get a follow up about his night, and we'll read it next week.
Sleep paralysis. So here's a weird thing about my sleep paralysis story. I lived in this one rental before I bought my first house for the family. We lived in this rental for a while. This is when just the first daughter was born. Small rental out in the woods. I would have sleep paralysis all the time at this place. I've never had it anywhere else but there, and I don't know why. Yeah, I think that's kind of weird. It's just this location. It has been, 10 years almost maybe.
Yeah.
And I haven't had it since then. But I will say one thing about when I had it. I never saw anything. So let's walk through the steps of like what would happen, right? So you're falling asleep. You're laying there falling asleep. Everything seems normal. And all of a sudden, it's like you're asleep, but you're not. You look around. Everything appears to be normal around the room. But there's a problem. You can't move. It's almost like you could turn your head, though. Like I could turn my head when I was doing it. That's all I could do.
Yeah.
I know what they're talking about. You dig your hands down in the bed. You can't move, though. Your spouse, your significant other, wife would be near me. And I wanted to yell for help. I wanted to say something, but I couldn't. And by the time this would happen, I would hear this just monster approaching. You just start hearing these scary as hell noises coming. Getting closer, getting closer. It never got beyond that. I never saw anything, but these noises were scary, dude. It was just so terrifying. So you're saying you actually had something in front of you when you were having it.
Yeah, it was a person's face. And then finally I was able to get up and it was gone. Another time, a little more recently, probably last year at some point, I had sleep paralysis. I was staying with my girlfriend, and I was laying in her bed, and I woke up, and I didn't see anything. Like you said, you didn't see anything that time. I woke up, I knew I couldn't move. There was this dark corner that I was looking at when I woke up, and it's the most sure thing I ever had in my life. I knew something was sitting there in that corner and that it was going to attack me. And all I could do was stare in that corner, not knowing what to do next because I couldn't move, but there was something there. And it felt like it lasted an hour. And I was just like, I've got to be ready for when this thing comes at me.
So you're at a stalemate with this thing for a long time. I can't remember how long it would take, but there was definitely a buildup, dude. Like, everything would start out normal. You'd start hearing noises. They'd get progressively worse. And you're right. It's usually like, they're coming in a certain area, always had the door open because you have a kid, right? I mean, you want to be able to hear if something's going on. I would actually hear it like coming down the hallway, so damn slow. And like you said, this wasn't like an immediate thing. Like it was like a buildup. So you're seeing in a corner, a dark corner, you think you're seeing something. Did you look away? Then you look back and it was there?
No, I just kept staring at the corner. It wasn't that I could see something, almost feel something there. You
Yeah.
know, like where it's like it's so dark in that area that you can't see anything. But it's almost like you can hear it or sense it, smell it, something like that. It's like there's something there and it's going to come out.
Somebody said they pretend like they're asleep so they won't get me. Don't know why. I think that would actually work. Yeah. This kind of reminds me of like going back to the very beginning of this show when I talked about that incident I had in my room, except for it wasn't sleep. Because some people have said, like, I've told very few people about that, but some of the pushback I did get or feedback was it was probably sleep paralysis, but I was moving, dude. I was sitting up, running around. Now, I wasn't running around, but I was sitting up in my bed. I looked under the bottom bunk. I looked around. That was not the case when I had sleep paralysis at this house I'm talking about here.
Right.
I could not move. But I'll tell you what I do think is interesting since we're talking about sleep paralysis. We're not really covering the story in too great a detail, but it's a different experience for everybody. I always find it interesting, these people that talk about how they could take this sleep paralysis and they can they're like soul, like they could almost leave their body.
Yeah.
And go do this shit while they're in this sleep paralysis. You know what I'm talking about? Like they're almost levitate up out of their body. Like they figure out how to, like they don't worry about like what we're talking about. They're actually able to take like use this as an advantage. They're just flying around everywhere.
Yeah, I wish I could do that when I have it.
Yeah, so you know what I'm talking about? You're familiar with what I'm talking about?
Yes.
Like, and I'll tell you, because when you're having sleep paralysis, you start looking it up and researching it, right?
Yeah.
And as I would come upon stuff, it was talking about that. If you do this, that'll happen. And I tried a few times, but then I was like, is this like a good idea? Because there'd be like some people, like if you don't make it back to your body or like all these theories and terrifying things, I was like, maybe I shouldn't be tampering with this, you know?
And also, you always hear people say different things cause it. Like say, oh, you drink too much coffee before bed, or you drink too much alcohol, or something like that. And I could tell you from doing both of those things a lot of times that's not the case. That's not what caused it. I don't know what causes it, but that's not it.
It's terrifying. This guy just had this happen. That's what I can't get over. This is hot off the press.
You just hot off the press. I am going to message him right after we get off here, and then I'm going to see if I can get a follow-up, because this would be about the time where he's bedding down again for the night, so he might still be up doing coke.
Well, we'll give him the benefit of the doubt. We don't know. If you ever have this happen to you, you instantly want to be able to do this. Luke loves that song.
I wish I could walk down the street not giving a single care in the world like
Walk
he
over
does.
cars. Well, maybe if you figure out how to get up from the sleep paralysis, you can do that.
Doesn't care that his presumably girlfriend is yelling in his face or someone like that.
Yeah, beating him up. Careless. So if you can figure out how to counter your sleep paralysis, maybe you can have something like that happen to you.
I think that's what it is, yeah.
So you're going to reach out to this guy. Maybe more to come on this.
Yeah, I hope so, because I want to know how his second night went.
After you start having this happen to you, and I know I did, you're always like, well, is that going to happen tonight?
Oh, yeah, that's the worst. The night after, when you're like going to bed, it's like, you got to take another night of that.
If you're just listening to this, there's a lot of people listening to this live right now across 8 different platforms, by the way. This particular show, I think it's probably the largest amount I've seen thus far. If you find this interesting, go back to a previous episode. You can actually find it on my YouTube and find Jack's dream. I'm not saying it's sleep paralysis, but it's just one of those things where it's terrifying, involving, and I can't imagine, because what I'm trying to say is, I can't imagine trying to go to bed again after something like that happens. This guy has this detailed event about this thing, has like worms in its eyes, all this crazy stuff. And I'm sure he's just dreading going back to sleep tonight.
I'm definitely looking forward to trying to reach out to him. And God, I hope I don't have sleep paralysis tonight.
Somebody said they are going to sleep with the lights on tonight. Thank you very much, guys.
Jeff Townsend Media. CG, good night.
And the question is, do I stay here? Will you be back? Are you gonna come back? Will you be back? Are you coming back?